All right, hello. Today is Friday, October 25th. And so today we're going to take what we've been doing the last 2 days and start applying it now to some thinking of our own. And so first of all, our vocabulary word is conform. So you obey established rules and patterns. Now it can be rules or laws, like conforming to speed limit laws. So you go the speed limit, or it could be conforming to the bells here at school, so making sure that you're on time for every class. It could also be unwritten rules too, like the dress code. Think about what the normal dress is here at DMS. What do most people wear? And I know that everyone has their own style, but we typically all there's some similarities between a lot of us, and and so conforming, can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. Transcendentalists would say don't conform, be your own person, be unique. Human nature is to have a little bit of conformity, to follow some, what we perceive as what is the normal and patterns. Doesn't have to be, but conforming is just kind of the opposite of transcendentalism. So good word to know because we do hear it quite a bit. Target for today, we're looking at evidence. So we're going to be looking at our essential question for this chapter. No, we're not going to do a formal quiz on it or anything and writing up a formal paragraph like last time. We're going to really be focusing on a trouble area for a lot of us, and that was the evidence. Trying to find some concrete examples to back up our opinion. So that's why we have up here as our target to find some evidence to support your beliefs about the successes and failures of the early 1800s reform movements. So we're going to start by sharing how we graded our reform movements. And because we did that yesterday, you did that with your expert group and what grade you would give them. I'm going to say that none of the groups had better than a B. And in fact, a couple of them even were down in the very D or D minus range, because not all of these reforms are going to be successful. Some will be partially successful, sure, but you're gonna you'll come to your own opinion on that, I guess, and back it up with evidence, and because that's really what I want. So some of you might disagree with me, and that is perfectly fine. I can't wait to see your evidence on that, to help support it. So we have today we'll do the grading. We're going to do some evidence gathering, and that really involves looking back through the chapter, and then the essential question creation. So after we do this grading, we're gathering some evidence, and how we're doing that is we're making a T-chart on a big sheet of paper. You're going back with your expert group, so the group prison reform or education reform or women's or slavery reform. And you're going to look through that section again that you read to find specific pieces of information that support success or failure for that group. So when I'm saying specific pieces of evidence, I mean names of people and what they did. I'm also thinking about definitions of words could work, numbers or laws that were passed. So numbers of something, specific laws that were passed regarding something. For example, with slavery, one of the successes of trying to get rid of slavery is that a man, I think Garrison is his last name, started a newspaper called The Liberator. Yes, it had difficulties, but it was started at least that talked about anti-slavery, so abolition or getting rid of slavery. That hadn't existed before the 1800s. So just a small group doing a small action gets something started. Now it's a small success because if you read that section, you'll find there's a lot of negative and failures, but that is one success, and it's a person, it's the newspaper they started. That's a solid piece of evidence. So we created some T-charts, and you can reference them. I'm actually going to put them in the era of reform as each class makes these T-charts, these big poster T-charts. I'm going to put them in the hour of where they were created. So you can take a look at what your classmates did, and their thinking. Because what we're going to use this for is there's going to be an essential question assignment. And like I said earlier, it's not a quiz that we're going to do or a paragraph you're going to officially write. We're just going to start this process, and we're going to use this worksheet to help us. So after you've looked at all 4 of the posters or read all 4 sections, you're going to think about how successful and to what extent was the reform movement of the mid-1800s, how did it improve life? And you're going to use this chart to help you with that. So you can use your notes. So you can use anything that we've used in class. That worksheet from yesterday would be great. The textbook would be great. I do just actually discourage you from using the internet because it pulls in a lot of later events, and we don't want anything after 1850. So something just keep in mind. So our question we're looking at is, to what extent did the reform movements of the mid-1800s improve life for Americans at the time? So you're going to put down, did I greatly think it, improve the lives of Americans, somewhat improve, or didn't improve? And you're going to list your reasons. You may want to do this close to the end, actually, because you may want to come down here and start, what was your first reason and evidence? So there were 4 reforms. I'm thinking that what you would do is you would put the first reason I think the reform movements greatly impacted or improved the lives of Americans in the mid-1800s was by, and then you might say prison reform here, okay? So you would put down one of the 4 reforms, and then what evidence from that reform explains to you that it greatly improved the lives of Americans. So you'd write down what evidence helps to support that claim, that reason. You would do the same down here for evidence 2. It greatly impacted the lives and improved the lives of Americans was by educational reform. Okay, evidence that supports this opinion is, and you would list some evidence that shows that education was greatly increased and improved during this time period. And then you pick one of the other 2 reforms. So each reform is a reason providing, include at least one solid piece of evidence, but many of these actually have more than one. So you have several lines there. Use them if you need to. And then at the end, that's where you put your conclusion. And then this is where you sum up your 3 pieces. So you're going to say more than just because of prison reform, educational reform, and women's rights. You're going to say because prison reform, give a quick summary of your evidence. Because of educational reform in this way, give a quick sum, and then your last one. And then you'll go back up here and you'd write in improve the lives of Americans in the mid-1800s because of how prison reform was changed, how educational reform happened, and the events that allowed women to have more rights. Okay, I'm going to keep it very brief up here and explain it a bit more at the bottom. This assignment is going to be due Tuesday. I will put this in Schoology, but it's due Tuesday. We're just getting started on it today. You can work on it over the weekend if you'd like. Monday will take about 10 minutes and work on it in class, but then it'll be due on Tuesday. You don't need to put it on any other form but on this one, and we'll turn it in on this on Tuesday. Main point again is to find evidence. Evidence that supports our reasons. So solid stuff from the textbook that tells us about your, if you think it was greatly, somewhat, or didn't improve life. All right, that sums up the day. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we will see you on Monday.